Everybody, this is Professor Lee. I generally, what I do is very scientific and technology principles. And Today, however, I'm going to have a little bit slightly different orientation and talk about the book, uh, accounting. Okay, 회계 혹은 accounting. Uh, so I hope you can kind of get a sense of everything you do in technology, and in order for that to be appreciated as a book value, that it needs accounting. So let's take a look. The case we're going to look at is this one. Can you see? Okay, so it's a Meta accounting for AI data center depreciation. Okay, and it's a very new case. I just checked it this morning. So it's June 13, 2026. So 9 days old case. That's the newest one. All right, so let's take a look at this. So this is a very business issue. So we're going to read the first few paragraphs, and then I will go to the PowerPoint and talk about this. Okay, so Meta accounting for AI data center depreciation. In early 2026, Meta was betting big on artificial intelligence. The company was integrating AI across its platforms to enhance ad targeting, personalized content, and develop new products such as AI-enabled glasses and its conversational assistant Meta AI. To support this shift, Meta expanded its data center footprint. Elijah George, a public equity analyst, was tasked with assessing how Meta's strategic shift affected the company's financial performance. So, as she reviewed the social media company's financials, two items stood out: the scale of its capital expenditure, capex, and a change in its depreciation policy. So Meta's CapEx, largely directed toward data centers and AI infrastructure, reached 72.2 billion in 2025 and were projected to rise as much as 135 billion in 2026. So at the same time, company had extended the estimated useful life of its servers and equipment to 5.5 years from 4 to 5 years. A decision that reduced the company's expected 2025 depreciation expense by $2.9 billion. So the decision raised questions. In the months preceding her analysis, some investors argued the depreciation changes overstated Meta's earning by as much as 21%. The controversy centered on the estimates of the useful life of AI chips housed inside the data centers, particularly as their dominant supplier, NVIDIA, plan to release new generations of chips annually. If the life cycle of graphics processing units, GPUs, chips used for training AI models, prove shorter than the company predicted, Meta could face higher future depreciation expenses and lower earnings. Others, however, argued that demand for older generation chips would remain high because they would complete many AI tasks, thereby supporting the depreciation extensions. So Elijah George evaluated competing perspectives. Did the depreciation extensions reflect the economic reality of Meta's assets, or were they inflating the company's earnings? And more fundamentally, was Meta's AI bet going to work? Okay, so ultimately, she had to decide: should her firm remain invested in Meta? Okay, so that is the case. Okay, I would like to show a short Hangul brief. Okay, so let's use the Hangul, Korean language for a little bit before we go into the case in English. Okay, so 감가상각, depreciation in 재정이나 회계에서 감가상각 이렇게 하는데 제가 예전에 뭐 학교에 무슨 지금은 뭐 별로 일 안 하지만 학교에서 무슨 위원회에 들어가서 같이 참여한 바가 있는데요. 신동열 총장님이실 때 그때 보니까 이제 학교에서 슈퍼컴퓨터를 사려고 하면 슈퍼컴퓨터가 살 때는 돈이 많이 드는데 보통 감가상각 5년이면 다 없어진다. 이제 이렇게 얘기를 하더라고요. 우리도 컴퓨터 지금 저 집 밑에도 막 사람들이 컴퓨터 버려놨죠. 그 안에 이제 히토류들 있으니까 사실 리사이클 해야 되는데 그냥 버려뒀어요. 이거 5년 정도에서 10년 정도 쓰면 컴퓨터 거의 안 쓰지 않습니까? Right? So same with the GPU in data center. So this document is my conversation with GPT about what is the 수명. How long can you use for GPU in data center, AI data center? And it says we have to distinguish between the physical and the economical 수명. So physical is about 5 to 10 years because it works. We also have some discussion about, data memory also requires, constant update every 4 or 5 years because the magnetic would lose information. Therefore, like glass writing can hold information like 10,000 years or something like that. Remember that. But the GPU itself can work 5 to 10 years. Right? 5 to 10 years. However, 실제 the actual maintenance work is coming from the cooling or the VRM or memory or in between welding or overheating. So if the data center is well cooled, then the GPU could be used up to 7 to 10 years, even over 10 years. However, that's a physical lifespan, but economical lifespan is what's more important in AI industry. And you have to distinguish between the purpose. So in order for AI to learning, the first training, the most cutting edge AI first training, that GPU is only used for 2 to 4 years and it will require the highest performance. If it's a general AI training, that economical lifespan is about 4 to 6. And if it's an inference AI, then you could use longer. So it could lifespan could be up to 5 to 8 years. Okay, so for example, A100 from NVIDIA, it's a very excellent GPU, but the newer models like H100, B200, that has a significantly higher efficiency of learning and training. So it's kind of 장비 경쟁. Like you don't want to be have a lesser of a machine than your competitors. So what if all your competitors have the most shiny and most efficient, most updated machines, and your GPUs are like over 5-10 years old? I mean, I'm okay, but I can see many people, especially those in the tech world, who are very, high performing people. They would hate this. Okay, so if you got money, they're gonna replace. They'll probably sell their older GPU to the 당근 or whatever, I don't know, used markets, and they'll get newer ones to train faster. Okay, So and there also it's talk about the mining and AI server. What's difference? So for mining, cryptography, mining GPU, you can have a load for 24 hours and even higher temperature. And there's a order. The fans have problem, but AI data centers, they are very keen on temperature, maintenance, electricity, and all of that. So data center GPUs last more longer than the mining, crypto mining GPUs. All right, so NVIDIA, Microsoft, AWS generally see AI GPU depreciation to 4 to 6 years. So 회계상, the book value, that's the key point here. Book value is about 4 to 6 years. So what the case mentioning is that Meta used to use the 4.5 to 5 years as their book value, the lifespan of GPU and their book value. However, what they're doing is a little bit of a tweaking. So they say, we're going to use it up to 5.5 years, a little longer. And what does that mean in accounting in terms of capitalization, capital value of your company? So for a company who increases their depreciation period from 4 years to 5.5 years, it doesn't change anything physically, right? But in your book value, 회계상으로는 your profit increases dramatically, right? So, for example, you have a GPU of 550억 원. And if you use 4 years as your depreciation period, and the annual expenditure would be, 137.5. But if you use 5.5 as your depreciating period, then the annual expenditure is only 100억 원, right? So that 3.7 100 million won is the reduced expenditure, although you didn't do anything physically, nothing changed. But in your book value, the profit, 영업이익, 순이익, and EPS will increase a great deal. I realized in my classes your undergraduate major is very diverse. Some are from like chemical engineering or from different majors. So I'm going to educate you a little bit about some basics of business finance. EPS. What is EPS? EPS means is earning for it's earning for per share. EPS. So the formula EPS 당기 순이익 빼기 배당금을 하고 전체 주식 숫자로 나누면 한 주당 1,000원을 벌었다. Okay. So EPS is important because 기업의 수익성을 주당 per share 로 비교할 수 있어서 여러 다른 컴퍼니 간에. 그래서 주가 평가에 이용되는 PER, Price Earning Ratio 계산의 이제 핵심이 된다. 그래서 Price Earning Ratio는 주가를 EPS로 나눈 것. 즉 주가가 5만 원이고 EPS가 5천 원이다. 그러면 PER이 10. 그러니까 현재 이익 기준으로 10년치 이익을 가격에 지불하는 셈이다. 그러니까 주가를 이제 높이 쳐서 지불을 하는 셈이 되죠. 이게 텍 컴퍼니 경우에는 엄청난 숫자가 있고 1보다 못한 회사도 있습니다. Okay. Alright. So what happened? Cash flow didn't change. GPUs, the real physical performance didn't change. It's not that you have more customer or your revenue is increasing. No. It's just that in your book value, 회계상으로 the profit numbers is improving. So 여기서 주의할 점. 진짜로 그 GPU lifespan did it really increase? 실제로 증가했냐? 만약에 그럴 수도 있다. H100인데 처음에는 트레이닝 할 때는 아주 최고급 사양이 필요하지만 추론용으로 쓸 때는 그렇게 최고급 사양이 필요하지 않고 계산이 이렇게 많지 않아서 실제로 더 쓸 수 있다는 것은 뭐 괜찮은데 만약에 실제 컴퍼니의 실적, like the actual business performance is actually getting worse, yet because of their little accounting trick, they only increase the depreciation period, then that's something to pay attention to. Okay, so EPS 착시가 일어날 수 있고, 그래서 여러분이 what you also need to watch out for is operating cash flow. Is cash flow or free cash flow? Is cash flow increased? If cash flow didn't increase, yet your profits increased, that is accounting effect. If it's, contrived accounting effect, that's also called like cosmetic effect, or sometimes it's 분식회계, right? But 모든 게 다 분식회계는 아니고 그게 현실적으로 디펜드 가능하고 실제로 GPU를 평균적으로 예전에는 뭐 4년 반만 썼는데 지금은 5년 뭐 좀 넘게까지 쓴다. 뭐 현실적으로 정말 이렇게 변했다. 이런 게 되면은 이거 바꿀 수 있죠. 그러나 조심해야 된다 이제 얘기고. AI 업계 특수성, AI GPU는 지금 like A100, H100, 뭐 B200 될 때마다 성능이 크게 향상되기 때문에 정말로 5.5년에 경제 효기 창출되는가? 요렇게 이제 자세히 봐야 한다 이거죠. 그래서 지금 저희가 본 케이스도 이제 메타지만 감가상각 기간을 연장해서 수십억 달러의 비용 감소 효과를 발표했기 때문에 이게 실제로 일어났어요. 그래서 이거를 우리가 어떻게 볼 것인가 하는 문제를 지금 비즈니스 케이스에서 다루고 있다라는 거고요. 쭉 가서 GPU가 학습보다 추론에서 더 오래 사용될 수 있다. 그러니까 학습용 A는 가장 빠른 GPU를 원한다 이렇게 돼 있죠. 그래서 학습용 대형 모델은 수만 개의 GPU를 수개월 동안 막 미친 듯이 막 돌리는 거예요. 그러니까 이거는 무슨 시험 직전에 뭐라 그래요, 여러분? 그렇게 시험 직전에 벼락치기 뭐 하는 밤새서 막 하듯이 next generation 멀티 모델 학습할 때는 학습 시간 단축. 그러니까 새 모델이 빨리 나와야 되지. 전력도 절감하고 데이터 센터 공간도 절약해야 되는데 GPU가 2배 빠르면 학습 기간 절반 단축. 그러니까 그 사실 파이낸셜 비용도 많잖아요. 이 회사들이 빚도 지고 있을 테고 기간이 단축되면 이자가 확 주는 거죠. 인건비도 줄고 출시 시기도 앞당겨서 회사가 경쟁에서 우위를 차지하게 하고 그러니까 이게 굉장히 이제 매력적으로 다가오니까 학습용에는 항상 최신 성능의 GPU를 가지고 다른 경쟁 기업보다 더 빨리 최고의 모델을 만들어낸다는 경쟁이 있지만 추론은 이미 다 모델은 개발되어 있기 때문에 이게 뭐 질문했을 때 응답이 0.5초 걸렸네, 0.8초 걸렸네 이런 차이지 그렇게 학습에서처럼 가시적으로 경쟁 우위를 점하는 데 도움을 주는 게 아니라서 오래된 GPU 가지고도 충분히 이제 추론된 모델은 사용 가능하다. 그래서 이 셋 중에 이제 A100가 이제 가장 좀 오래된 모델이지만 여전히 뭐 이런 챗봇 그냥 search of existing information, translation, recommendation 같은 추론 업무는 여전히 수행할 수 있다. 그리고 이제 모델이 계속 경량화되면서 AI 산업에서 이런 여러 가지 quantization, distillation, mixture of experts 각각 뭔지 여러분 검색해 보세요. 그러면 이제 H100 필요 없고 A100도 되니까 구형 GPU도 쓸 수 있으면 수명이 연장되는 거죠. 그러니까 사실은 어떻게도 해석 가능하냐면 실제로 감가상각을 늘렸다는 거는 이미 그 회사가 약간 신형 모델 개발은 안 하고 있다. 이렇게 역으로도 해서 그 회사 경쟁력이 좀 떨어지는 쪽으로도 해석 가능합니다. 그죠? 이해하셨죠? 그래서 이제 GPU 계층화 현상, 대형 클라우드 기업은 최신 모델 학습은 최신 GPU, 파인 튜닝은 중간 세대 GPU, 추론은 구형 GPU, 저가 서비스는 더 구형 GPU. 이렇게 GPU가 은퇴하는 게 아니라 아래 단계로 이동을 하니까 실제로 여기가 강하면은 전체적으로 그 감각상 짧게 나타나지만 이게 버리지 않고 이제 다른 서비스 쪽으로 돌려서 계속 쓰고 있으면은 사실 GPU 수명이 늘어나는 걸로 볼 수 있죠. 퍼포스는 바뀌었지만은 그래서 비행기에 비유하면 학습용은 최전선, 추론용은 수송기 뭐 이렇다. 그래서 AI 업계에서는 흔히 training GPUs become inference GPUs. 그래서 학습용은 2에서 4년, 추론용은 5에서 8년으로 본다. 이제 이렇게 돼 있죠. Okay, the next of slide, it's not slide, Word document is 한글 강의 요약 노트. So you can take a look. I am going to switch to PowerPoint and conduct my lecture in English. Okay, but you can read this Hangul document and realize what's the problem or what is the most important issue. Okay, thank you. Before we start, I'd like to talk a little bit about, Bible, which is always the inspiration and source of my knowledge, guiding light for me. So let's start just a little bit about a Hebrew word called kavod. Yeah, kavod is sometimes translated as glory, but it has other meanings that I believe is more relevant. So kavod is 무겁다, weighty, grave, 가치가 크다. So it's when you say glory, you think about light. It's like stars, like it's glowing. But more meaningful explanation of what this kavod means is the weight of God's presence. So when you are in God's presence, He is consuming fire. He's really heavy. His value is enormous. So, we are today, what we are talking about is the value of GPU. If value is greater, then it's weightier. That we can think of that way. I mean, if in early commerce, like they used coins, real coins, like silver coins and gold coins. So in order to have a transaction of a really valuable thing, then you would have to bring very, very heavy coins or the gold bars, right? But what is the value? What is the weight of our Creator Himself? It's unimaginable, but you can think about it being a really heavy. So when you are closer to God and get used to the glory or the heaviness or the graveness of the Lord, you become similar to that because of the kavod. So God weighs our actions. 1 Samuel 2:3. The weight of God's presence. especially there is a Bible story of Daniel chapter 5. And here a hand appears and write on the wall. It's Mene Mene Tekel and Upharsin. That's what the hand written on the wall, which Daniel interpreted for a young new king. So it was, I think it was Persia. Right now we have a war, but with Persia, Iran. So what it says is God has from Babylon to Persia, or Persia to Media. I'm not sure, but God says, I weighed you, the king. I weighed you, and you came lacking. You're short. You're too light. You're not kavod enough. You're not weighty enough. The way you act, the iniquity, injustice. So you found wanting, and the kingdom will be divided. That's what Daniel 5 is talking about. So I think that in the way we create any governance, which could be company, which could be even family or any institution, organization, or even a nation state, that you rule by scepter of justice. If you're found to be wanting, meaning 가벼우면, 그죠? And people will rebel, and rightly so, you'll be taken down. That's 하나님의 회개장부에서는 파산 상태다. 이제 이런 verdict이 내려지는 거죠. Okay? And here's my favorite verse, Psalm 24:7. Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, all ancient doors, gates, that the King of glory may come in. Here again, glory, it's not the light shattering glory. It is kavod. So King Melech HaKavod, the weighty king. He's weighty because he's all justice. Nothing wanting, nothing lacking from the King Jesus. Because that King of glory is coming in. So the ancient doors, lift up your heads and receive him. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty. The Lord mighty in battle. So Lord is good and battle. Okay, another example of weighing is God. When God finds some government or king who is lacking, 회계장부에서 좀 못 미치는 왕들의 경우에 he judges. So Joshua 12:24 shows like God's victory roll, and he keeps tally. So it's like he's counting. He's accounting of his victory list of the kings of Jericho 1, king of Ai 1, king of Jerusalem 1, king of Hebron 1, king of Jarmuth 1, up to the 31, all the kings 31. So I know that in business or in technology, in running company or nations, that why do we have to be worrying about righteousness or justice? Or when you are doing accounting, there gotta be no cheating. It has to be accurate, because God judges, and he's going to get rid of the ones that found wanting. So God's weighing is coming on. Okay, so our creator is very good at number. So one thing I actually noticed from several CEOs I know, or the board members, directors, they're very good at numbers. So if you want to be a leader in a business organization, you have to really train yourself to be good at number. Do I make sense? Okay. So God determines the number of stars. He's good at numbers and gives all the names. God also counts the numbers, all the hairs of your head. Uh, she's very beautiful, and her hair has several colors. I kind of wonder, how many of this color, how many of black color, how many of, oh, the gray color. God knows. Matthew 10:30. Some of these numbers you see in Bible verses, even the numbers are very meaningful. All right, so today's Bible talk. Now move on to the meta. Meta. All right, today is when we talk about one of my favorite things in business, which is number. Take a topic, sounds impossibly really dry. Corporate depreciation accounting, and watch it turn into a genuine thriller. I don't know how we could do that. Because hidden inside Meta's financial statements is a single estimate, one number. And that one number is at the center of a global argument about whether the entire AI boom is just a mirage or is it real. Okay, so number is the answer to a deceptive, simple question. How long does AI chip last? How long? It's always a good question. How long? How long does an AI chip last? Say it lasts a long time and Meta looks widely profitable. Say it lasts short time and a lot of that profit evaporates. So by the end of today, you understand exactly what that assumption is worth, and by one estimate, about 176 billion. Okay, this kind of raises me question for the data center in the space. Okay, if you have to replace all the chips by 5 years, every 5 years, that's a lot of work. Okay, Elon, you got work to do. How you're gonna produce it, but then how you're gonna okay, you're done. I think he's going to do great. So that there would be another question. Okay, if you have a long lifespan AI chip in space data center, that's going to be widely more successful. Okay, so the next slide. Here's the puzzle that makes this case very good. Is two professional investors. They look at the same number, same meta filing. So one of them says this is one of the best business the market has ever seen. But by the way, Facebook and Meta is a very strong business. I bought Facebook stock during COVID, and it's very profitable. Although I bought like one or two, but it's like grown like 2 to 3/4. And the other one, so when you say a very optimistic analyst, that you can call him or her a bull. Okay, the bull. The bear is someone who has a little bit pessimistic view of the market. So the same for the same number, the bear analyst would say, okay, they're quietly hiding a coming collapse, one of the more common frauds of the modern era. Okay, so whole disagreement reduced to one accounting choice. How long Meta says that its AI chips last? Okay, interesting. So, next slide. Here's root. In part 1, we learned just enough accounting to be dangerous in about 7 minutes, because we have chemists, we have physicists, we have different people here. About 7 minutes accounting. Part 2, we open up the depreciation machine and we see where profit can quietly appear or disappear. Part 3, we get into the chips, because the whole fight is really about silicon. Number 4 is meta case itself, and number 5, you become the analyst and make the call. Okay, So no prerequisite required. If you never read a balance sheet in your life, exactly who I'm talking to. So don't worry. Next, accounting in 7 minutes. No, the scoreboard every business plays by, no jargon. Promise. Okay, so why this matters? Why this matters to you? Why a marketer, engineer, businessman, scientist needs this? Because everything you do has a price. You need to know how the pricing is created. You might be thinking, I don't need this. No, you're wrong. You need this. One, the biggest strategic bets a company make show up first in accounting. In the accounting. So when Meta decides to spend 135 billion on data centers, you see that decision in the numbers before you see it anywhere else. So if you read the numbers, you read the strategy. It's very interesting. I always pay attention to the numbers, and even reading Bible, I kind of pick up the pattern God gives you with numbers. God is very good at numbers. He knows the number of your hair. It changes every day, even every hour, but he knows that. Number two, the same profit figure can be honest or it can be quietly flattered by an estimate. So knowing the difference is a genuine superpower in business. Number three, every public company, public means 상장, 주식 상장된 회사, is required to publish its financials. So once you can decode them, and you will, by the end of today, you can see things most people just scroll right past. Okay, so move on. 3 scorecards. If you're good at accounting, you can just pass this part from slide 4 to 11 quickly. Fast forward. The 3 scorecards, every company keeps those 3 scorecards, and the trick is remembering what each one is for. So balance sheet is a photo. What you own versus what you owe. 실제로 소유한 것과 asset, or what you owe, 빚, liability, frozen at a single instant. It's a single moment shot. Number 2, the income statement is a movie. So did we make money over the whole year? And the cash flow is the bank log. Where did the actual cash come from? Or where did it go? Okay. So the balance sheet runs on one golden rule that always balances, which is assets equals liabilities plus equity. Okay, assets equals liabilities plus equity. 자산은 liability와 그다음 equity의 합이다. Right? Okay. In friendly words, what you have equals what you borrowed plus what is truly yours. What you have is what you borrowed and what is truly yours. What you borrowed, you have to pay back. What truly yours is really yours. But both of them included become your assets. Assets of a company, assets of a household. Okay, so lemonade stand, you've got $100 of stuff. Cash, the stand, the lemons. The bank lent you $30, so your real stake, your equity is $7. 100 equals 30 plus 70, and that's the whole idea. Now scale it up. In 2025, Meta's total assets ballooned to $366 billion, and the fastest growing slice of what is property and equipment. The buildings, servers. Okay, keep your eye on that slice because how we value over time is the entire story today. Okay, next. So the income statement is the story of a year, told top to bottom. So sales come in at the top, sales revenue. We subtract the cost of running the business, and that's what's called expenditure. And what is left at the bottom is the net income, literally the bottom line. So when people talk about bottom line, this is revenue minus cost of goods, cost of operation. So for Meta in 2025, roughly about 201 billion of revenue in at the top, 201, and minus 118 billion of costs taken out, including salary and so on. And that leaving about $60 billion as a profit. Now, the cost line is going to haunt us for the rest of the lecture. Buried inside the cost of revenue is something called depreciation. So the cost of rising up those data centers, cost of using up those data centers. So remember where it lives, because the fact that it's buried not on its own clean line becomes a real problem later. Okay. And another accounting lesson is profit. Profit is an opinion. Remember that. Profit is an opinion, cash is a fact. Opinion is everybody has different ideas. Opinions, is you have certain lens, it looks that way, right? Law of natures, natural laws are not opinion. Physics is not an opinion, but profit is an opinion. So it's a flexible point now. Net income profit includes estimates and judgments. So smart ones made by smart people, but still guesses. So how fast do our assets wear out? That's an estimate, and it sits right inside profit. So in a real sense, profit could be an opinion. Cash is different. A cash flow statement only tracks money that actually moved. Dollars in, dollars out. No opinion. So cash is a fact. That's why you have to pay attention to cash when you read a company or when you buy stocks of a certain company. So here's the tell. In 2025, Meta generated 116 billion of operating cash and spent about 70 billion buying property and equipment. Those are facts. But profit number, that depends on opinion. So when someone changes an opinion and profit jumps, but cash doesn't move at all. A careful analyst's antenna goes straight up. Hold that thought. It's the seed of everything. Next. So the big fork, latte versus espresso machine. Now the single most useful distinction in accounting, and I'll teach it with coffee. You walk into a cafe and buy a $5 latte. It's gone today, you drank it. The benefit is used up immediately. So we expense it, E-X-P-N-S-E, expense it now. The whole $5 hit this year. Accountants call that an operating expense, and in short is OPEX. Okay? 라떼 사서 마셔버렸으니까 없어진 거예요. 그래서 이거를 operating expense. Now, imagine the cafe buys a $12,000 espresso machine. So the machine serves customers for years. The benefit lasts. So you don't dump all $12,000 into this year. Instead, you will capitalize it, put it on the balance sheet as an asset, and spread its cost over its useful life. That's a capital expenditure or CapEx. Okay? 이거 다시 에스프레소 머신을 샀어. 12,000불짜리. 그러면 이 12,000불을 내가 기계를 가졌으니까 이제 이 기계를 나한테 에셋으로 자산으로 기록을 할 수가 있어요. 그죠? 그래서 돈을 썼는데도 자산이야. 그리고 이 기계를 사용해서 capitalize를 하잖아. 그렇죠? 근데 문제는 기계는 몇 해가 지나면 못 쓰게 되지. 그러니까 해마다 감가상각을 얼마씩 할 것이냐 이제 그걸 따라서 정하고 그렇기 때문에 캐피탈을 썼다 해서 CapEx, Capital Expenditure CapEx라고 부르는 거죠. 그러니까 시설 투자 같은 것입니다. So the rule of thumb is if the benefit lasts beyond this year, you capitalize it and spread the cost. 그러니까 뭔가 장비를 샀고 그거를 수년 동안 쓸 거면 이걸 자본화 시켜서 비용을 장부에다가 펼쳐야 되는데 here's the punchline. Meta servers and data centers are giant espresso machines. Okay? 그래서 메타의 그 GPU 데이터 센터 뭐 장비 전력 시설 혹은 뭐 SMR까지 달고 싶다고 했잖아요. 이런 거는 다 이제 거대한 에스프레소 머신이다 이렇게 생각하시고 이거를 CapEx로 잡아야 된다 이거죠. So they bought 72 billion of them dollars in 2025. Okay. Now, the matching principle. Record the cost in the same years you enjoy its benefit. Why can't we just expense the whole machine at once? 왜 12,000불을 첫 해 다 쓰지 않습니까? Because of a matching principle. 왜냐하면 이 원리가 있는데 a beautifully sensible word that says record a cost in the same years you enjoy its benefit. So if you dumped all $12,000 into year one would look terrible and years 2 through 4 would look fake great. So the machine's still working, but it costs you nothing on paper. So that tells investors nothing useful. Instead, we spread it like $3,000 a year for 4 years. Each year carries its fair share. Okay? Each year carries its fair share of the cost. And spreading that cost over time has a name. And that's the depreciation. So the depreciation machine, as we discussed over the 10 slides from here, where billions of dollars reported profit can quietly appear or disappear. Okay. Next, depreciation in one sentence. Here's the whole definition in one line. So depreciation is spreading the cost of a long-lived asset across years it stays useful. Again, depreciation is spreading the cost of a long-lived asset across the years it stays useful. So to actually compute it, you need 3 ingredients. Cost, what you paid for the asset. Salvage value, that's what's worth at the very end. And useful life, how many years it will serve you. Like a car. 차를 처음 샀을 때 cost, 그 다음에 차를 중고차 가격 팔 때 그게 salvage value, 그리고 몇 년 탔나 이제 그게 useful life. Okay, so I marked useful life as the spicy one because that's the ingredient everybody fights over. To keep our arithmetic clean today, we'll set salvage value to 0. Let's just say GPU 뭐 팔 수 있을 텐데 그래도 막판에 팔 수 없다, 영원이다 이렇게 단순화를 해보자 이제 그 말입니다. Okay, so straight line depreciation. So simplest recipe is straight line. So take the 12,000 machine, divide by 4 years, and you get 3,000 of expense every single year. The same slice each year, flat as a board, and that's why it's called straight, right? 3,000, straight line. Fire this away. Most of the big tech companies, Meta included, use the straight line for their servers. So when we talk about thinner slices in a moment, we're talking about this picture, just with the bar stretched wide. Next, useful life is a lever on profit. So here's the mechanism behind the entire meta debate. Make sure everyone sees it. Watch what useful life does. On the left, we say the asset lasts 4 years, thick slices, big expense each year. On the right, we say it is that's 6 years instead of 4 years. Now you extended the lifespan. And look, the slices are thinner, same total cost, just divided into more pieces over a longer time period. So the thinner slices mean a smaller expense each year. A smaller expense means a bigger reported profit. So just by saying this lasts longer, the company's profit looks fatter. 더 뚱뚱해 보이죠? Without selling a single extra thing. 그러니까 뭐 메다에서 세일즈가 늘어났거나 더 신규 고객이 온 것도 아닌데 감가상각만 기간을 늘리니까 갑자기 프로핏이 확 늘어나 보인다. 이제 그런 얘기가 되겠죠. Okay. So, profit appears from thin air. So let's make it concrete with money. A company owns $1 million of worth of servers. Let's say salvage value is 0. If it says they last 4 years, depreciation is $1 million divided by 4. So $250,000 this year. If it says they last 5 years, it's going to be divided by 5. So it's going to be 200,000. Therefore, 50,000, you can record it as more profit for that year. Okay, nothing changed, just 감가상각 기간만 4년에서 5년으로 늘리니까 갑자기 5천만 원 이상, 5만 불 이상의 profit이 이제 생겨나게 된 거죠. Okay, now hold that exact trick in your head because on the next slide we are going to multiply it by 100,000. So replace that $1 million of servers with about $100 billion of servers, meta scale servers. Same arithmetic, but now the profit that appears isn't $50,000, it's billions. So that this isn't hypothetical. In January 2025, Meta did exactly this. So it extended the useful life of its servers from 5 years to 5.5 years. That half-year change reduced its 2025 depreciation expense by about $2.9 billion. So Meta called it a routine change in accounting. Routine change in accounting estimate. And it might even say, we have more now 추론 model, inference models. But its critics called it the opening move in something much bigger. So, the dangerous twist. Here's why this lever is so easy to abuse. Depreciation is a non-cash expense. The actual money left the building back when Meta bought the chips. Depreciation is just a bookkeeping that spreads that past spending across future years. So when Meta changes the useful life estimate, two things happen. The bank account unchanged, not $1 moves, but the reported profit, 그러니까 이제 보고하는 그 수치는 goes up. Okay, so earnings rise even though nothing about the business actually improved. Now connected to the earlier slide 9, profit is an opinion, cash is a fact. So the depreciation change moves the opinion, but not the fact. So cash flow looks identical while earnings climb. The gap, earnings rising faster than cash, is exactly the red flag the short sellers are pointing at. 공매도하는 사람들이 찾는 거다, 그죠? When you hear Barry and Chanos later, Michael Barry, short 공매도하는 분 있죠? This is the slide they're really talking about. Okay. So 3 ways to spread the cost. There's more than one shape you can use. Straight line, equal slices each year. And the flat one, we drew accelerated, more expense early and less later. And the decelerated, units of production, less early, more later, based on actual usage. So here's a slightly provocative point. For technology that ages fast, And we'll argue that AI chips, they do age fast. An accelerated pattern arguably matches the reality best. Take the big hit early while the chip is hottest, the one in the middle. Yet the hyperscalers of overwhelming choose the flat straight line. 그러니까 사실은 이게 더 맞는데 그 tech AI 센터들에서는 그러나 이제 벤처 머니를 받아왔고 투자를 받아왔고 있기 때문에 이거보다는 요거를 이제 선호를 하는 경향이 있다는 거죠. Is it wrong? Not necessarily, but it's convenient and you should know these convenient choices. Okay, so the impairment, the sudden write-down. There is an emergency break in the system called impairment. If an asset suddenly worth far less than its book value, say a chip is made obsolete overnight, the rules force a one-time write-down, a sudden painful hit to profit all at once. So here's the link to our lever. Stretch the useful line now and you delay the reckoning. But if you were wrong, the eventual impairment is bigger. Meta booked about 237 million of equipment impairments in 2025. Small. The bear's fear is far larger, reckoning later, if these chips age faster than the books assume. Okay. So it's a judgment call. Be scrupulously fair. Here, that's what keeps the discussion honest. Now, the uncomfortable truth, under U.S. accounting rules, management estimate useful life themselves using industry practice. It's their own operating expense and judgment. So auditors check that the estimate is reasonable. There's no single correct number. Okay, 그러니까 감사를 하더라도 합리적인 수준이다 하고 그 회사 자체에서 이거를 정하기 때문에 스스로 조심해야 된다 이제 그죠? Which means a prudent, reasonable estimate and earnings management can look exactly the same from the outside. Okay, you cannot tell which one it is just by staring at the figure. That ambiguity isn't a footnote to the debate. It is the debate. So whenever you judge a matter today, you will have to reason about the context and incentive, not just the number. Okay, so it's very important. I kind of feel this is really important that in Korea education we had 문과 and 이과, right? And for 문과, they were not really heavily trained in dealing with numbers. And numbers like cash flow. Numbers as a fact, not as an opinion. Okay? So if you're not sure about what numbers really mean, and if you kind of add meanings like your own opinions and present that as if it's a real truth, that could mislead the whole country or whole company. Okay, so whoever is leading big organization, big nations, they gotta really deal with honestly with numbers. And if you begin to toy with numbers, like your accounts are not correct and yet you say it's okay, or your numbers are not good and you begin to put cosmetics on it and manipulate the numbers. Bible says that our God hates that. That's an abomination. The cheating skills are an abomination to the Lord. Bible says that multiple times. Just remember that numbers is not opinion. That's a fact and that's a prophecy. If you cannot even count, you have to come down. You cannot rule the country. If you cannot even count 1, 2, 3, 4, and you believe you can rule the company or rule the nation, you are seriously deranged. 2 sets of books, and it's legal. So one more thing that surprised people, companies legally keep 2 sets of books. So book depreciation for the investors, and its goal is to show economic performance, so it's smooth and multi-year. Tax depreciation for the tax authority. So completely different rules designed to implement government policy. So in 2025, this got spicy. The tax law nicknamed the One Big Beautiful Bill lets companies expense AI hardware 100% upfront for taxes, while still stretching it over many years for investors. So Meta can pay lower taxes now and report smooth, high profits to Wall Street. Best of both worlds. And notice, it sharpens the incentive to keep that book useful life nice and long. Okay? So which brings to the question, everything actually hinges on how long do these chips really last? How long do they last? So it's time to talk about the sand silicon. Why chips are the whole fight? Okay. All this hinges on one question, how long does the GPU actually last? So why does AI need so much hardware? Because training a model means doing trillions of tiny math problems over and over again. So that demands enormous parallel computing power, which means specialized chips which need buildings to house the chips and cool the chips, power, cooling at huge scale, fans. And here's a number that explains why chips dominate the accounting. By NVIDIA's own estimate, the chips alone are 50 to 65% of the total cost of building an AI data center, so the most variable and, as we'll see, fastest aging. Part of the whole facility is the chip, which is exactly why its useful life moves the profit number the most. So open the box from the outside in. The building and power systems, walls, generator, electric, and the cooling, liquid cooling to tame the ferocious heat AI makes, and the racks and servers, metal chassis holding the compute, and inside the servers, the brains, CPUs, GPUs, plus memory and networking. Now here's a quiet but important point. Those layers wear out at a wildly different speeds. A building lasts decades. A cutting-edge chip may not. So lumping them all together under one useful life should make you a little suspicious. Hold a thought. Meta does exactly that lumping. So the 2 types of chips, and the easiest way to remember them is a kitchen. So each CPU is a brilliant chef. It handles complex tasks one after another, brilliant at logic and precision. Only a few powerful hands. GPU is 1,000-line cooks. So each one does simple task, but they all work at once. AI training basically a mountain of simple math done in parallel, which is exactly what 1,000-line cooks are for. So that's why GPUs become the engine of the AI boom and why everyone fights over them. Next. So why is everyone obsessed with GPUs? 3 numbers tell you why GPUs are the center of gravity. They cost roughly 8 to 20 times more than the comparable CPU. They eat about 39% of a data center's hourly operating cost. CPU just 3%. And they run so hot, they demand liquid cooling, special expertise, and redesigned facilities. So put it together, the GPU is the priciest part and the fastest aging part. That combination is why the GPU's useful life is a single assumption that decides the whole depreciation debate. So how long does a GPU really last? Now, the heat of the puzzle, the honest answer is it depends on what you ask the chip to do. So training, inference, different. Training is teaching a brand new model, a chip cutting edge for only about 18 to 24 months before something better arrives. But for inference, simply running an old trained model, the same chips stay useful for about 5 years. So now look at the table on the right, straight from the case. Building lasts 10 to 15 years. Networking gear 3 to 5 years. Servers 5 to 7 years, 3 to 5 years. And GPUs 3 to 8 years, sometimes often shorter. CPUs 5 to 7 years. So does a chip last 2 years or 6? Genuinely, there is no single right answer, and that ambiguity, the real ambiguity, is precisely the gap that both the bulls and the bears reach into to support their story. Okay, next, the obsolescence treadmill. The two forces pull in opposite directions, and both are true. On one side, 2025, NVIDIA moved to releasing new chips every year. It used to be every 2. Now, faster releases mean older chips look obsolete sooner, which argues for shorter useful lives and more depreciation. But on the other hand, a newer GPU doesn't make an older one useless. It just demotes it to an easier job, such as inference. So the same silicon keeps earning, it keeps for years longer. So which argues for longer lives? Both things are genuinely true at the same time. So who's right? Now we move on to the meta case. The meta case you can purchase from the Harvard Business case website. Okay, let's see. So the case itself is a $1.96 trillion company, makes the biggest bet in its history. So from metaverse to dreams to an AI bet. Okay, a little context because it matters for judging the bet. In 2021, a company rebranded to Meta and poured money into metaverse, and that was bad. This bet went badly. Its reality lab unit lost over $100 billion. So Meta pivoted hard to AI, to a research supercomputer in 2022, and Meta AI, powered by its Llama model in 2023, a billion Llama queries by 2025, a new superintelligence labs, and ship Muse Spark. Okay, so here's a strategic twist that separates Meta from Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. Those companies sell AI as a cloud service. Meta doesn't. Meta embodies AI inside its own apps. So Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, to lift advertising and engagement. Remember that. They're contents companies. So because it completely shapes the question of will this bet pay off? Meta's payoff runs through its advertising engine, not a cloud invoice. Marketing company, therefore. The bill, the capex explosion. Okay, so this is the bill. Meta's capital spending, its capex, was around $72 2025, and it's projected to reach as much as $135 in 2026. Huge increase. It's steep. It's like the hockey stick. Look at the shape of chart. More than 4 times higher in just 2 years. So almost always data centers, servers, and chips. And that's why, our Samjeon next, also riding on this bandwagon. Now, reconnect this to part 2. When you are buying this much hardware, a useful life assumption of even a few months swings the depreciation expense, and therefore the profit by billions. The scale is exactly why the estimate matters so much. So how does Meta plan to make AI pay? right? So where's the return? Meta's monetization has 4 legs. Smarter ads, Llama written copy ad copy showed 6.7% higher click-through rate. AI ad tools, one video ad tools hit 10 billion revenue run rate in 2025. Meta AI tiers, free for basic tasks, paid for advanced, plus in-app shopping, and AI devices, Ray-Ban smart glasses, and embedded shopping assistant. So the thesis is a loop. AI makes the apps more engaging. More engagement means more ad impression. More impressions means more revenue. And keep this line in mind for the verdict, because this is the bold's strongest evidence, real measurable returns, and already showing up. Now watch the lever from part 2 get pulled repeatedly. So here's a useful life. Meta assigns to its servers over time. In 2020, 3 years. In 2020, by 2021, 4. Stretch up to 5. In January 2025, up to 5.5 years. In April 2026, it extends non-AI servers from 6 to 7. Okay, that January 2025 step alone cut 2025 depreciation by about $2.9 billion. Now, is any single one of these changes wrong? No. Each one had a justification. But step back and look at the pattern. A steady one-directional lengthening of life year after year. Every step of which lifts reported profit. The bears aren't pointing at one move. It's pointing at the trend. Right? 계속 감가상각 기간을 지속적으로 상향시키고 하고 있다. 그런 방향성에 대해서 한번 고민해 볼 필요가 있다. 이제 얘기죠. And then again, the April 2026 move, the most recent move is worth pausing on. Because it captures the whole tension. In April 2026, 두 달 전, Meta extended its non-AI servers from 6 to 7 years, citing a memory chip shortage that forces it to keep using older gear. Fair enough. Okay, but here's the striking part. Meta's own projection, running that hardware longer, pushes the annual failure rate from 4.8% to 7.4%. So the company is in the same breath lengthening the assumed life and admitting the hardware is more likely to fail. A sympathetic reading. A genuine supply constraint justifies it. A skeptical reading is a profit flattery, which acknowledges operational risk baked it. Both readings are on the table, and that is the case. The Bear Case by Marco Berry. So let's meet the most famous Barry, who is the investor from the movie Big Short, the man who bet against the housing market before 2008. His charge here is blunt: stretching useful lives on chips that really last 2 to 3 years artificially boosts earning. He calls it one of the more common frauds on the modern era. His numbers, and these are his estimates, not established facts. He figures that hyperscalers like big techs collectively understate depreciation by about $176 billion across 2026 to 2028. And by the 2028, Meta's earnings are overstated by about 20.8%. Whether or not you buy the figures, notice the mechanism exactly delivered from slide 18, and notice that he's pointing at the gap between earning and reality. Now let's see if his math is plausible. Okay, stress that this is illustrative, not a precise restatement. So, but let's just examine the logic, whether the logic is real or not. Let's sanity check Michael Berry's claim with Meta's own 2025 figures. As reported, pre-tax profit was about $84 billion, with depreciation on property and equipment of about $7.3 billion. Now ask the bigger question. What if these assets truly last only half as long as Meta assumes? If the life is half as long, the annual depreciation roughly doubles. Call it another $17 billion expense. Subtracted and pre-tax profit falls from about $84 billion toward about $67 billion. A haircut of roughly 20%. That's the heart of Barry's 20.8% number. So remember, earlier slides, the cash never changes. It's purely about how fast you recognize a cost you've already paid. Okay. So is Wall Street undercutting the bill? It's not just the short sellers. Mainstream bankers are nervous too. So Barclays cuts its 2025 earnings estimate for these companies by as much as 10% over this issue. And Bank of America argues that Wall Street's consensus underestimates Meta's 2027 depreciation by about $3.5 billion. So you can see the gap widened in the chart, where the bank's estimate climbs above the consensus line by 2028. So reason why they give what they give is one, we've built all the lecture. High GPU workloads plus rapid innovation point to shorter lives instead of longer lives, and more depreciation instead of lesser depreciation than the models assume. So even the people who like Meta think the future expense may be bigger than the Wall Street expects. Okay. So now in fairness, the other side, and it's a strong side, the Bull's case is all chips don't die, they get demoted, they used in other models. The evidence is rare. So Google runs TPUs that are 7 and 8 years old at 100% utilization. The AI startup XAI by Grok was still using older H100 chips long after the newer H200 launched. IBM, Google were still operating 2016 era chips in 2025, and the research firm Bernstein concluded that a roughly 6 year GPU life makes the depreciation accounting reasonable. Okay, so Bernstein is more kind of on their side, the hyperscaler side. The logic ties right back to earlier slides. A newer chip simply pushes the older one to easier inference jobs while it keeps earning for years. So on this new view, Meta's longer lives aren't a trick. They reflect reality, and this is genuinely two-sided case, and a good analyst holds both sides at once. The second move is the Blue Hour JV, joint venture. The depreciation isn't the only accounting choice in the case. So there's a second one. It's the other one. In October 2025, Meta formed a joint venture with a private credit firm called Blue Hour, and to build $27 billion data center in Louisiana. Blue Hour owns 80%, Meta owns 20%. Here's the move. Meta builds the data center, runs it, and leases it. And because it owns only 20% on paper, Meta does not put the project on its balance sheet. The technical term is that it doesn't consolidate the venture. The practical effect, the project's debt and asset largely stay off Meta's book. Therefore, this joint venture with Blue Hour is controversial. So why does this raise eyebrows? Because the accounting rule says you must consolidate, put it on your book if you control the venture. Meta's defense is that it doesn't direct the activities that most matter. But look at what Meta actually does. It bears the cost overruns and construction delays. It operationally runs the site. It guarantees payments to Blue Hour. From the outside, it looks like a lot awful like control. So here's a tale that's contested even among professionals. Meta's own auditor, Ernst & Young, flagged this deal as a credit audit matter, critical audit matter. 감사 사항이다. 이렇게 지적이 이제 되고 있습니다. A designation auditor used rarely, precisely because the judgment involved was so significant. When the auditor raises its hands, you pay attention. 조금 조심할 필요가 있다. Okay. The transparency problem. Okay. Step back and there is a bigger issue. You can barely find the depreciation in the first place. Compare an old economy company, a railroad reports depreciation at its own clean line, so investors can see it and check it instantly. Big tech doesn't. It buries depreciation inside cost of revenue or in footnote, and it lumps all the data center components together under one figure. New rules will force more detail, but not until 2027. So this is the quiet thread running through the whole case. If you can't see it, you can't check it. The same thing with the election fraud that's going on in many cases. You can't see it. It's buried, and it's because the sovereign people cannot see it. They know there's a problem, but nobody's responsible. The hard-to-find depreciation and off-the-books joint venture are two versions of the same problem. So the B word is a bubble, okay? The Prince of Air's work. Father destroyed the works of the devil. Let's zoom all the way out. By late 2025, AI-related investment share of the economy had passed the peak that telecom reached in the late 1990s, right before the dot-com crash when the Nasdaq fell about 77%. The combined hyperscalers capex is heading toward roughly $725 billion in 2026, and the annual depreciation could top $430 billion within 5 years. So the bubble question isn't paranoid, it's a serious comparison. The worry is that the mountain of spending propped up by optimistic accounting assumptions looks an awful lot like past mania, so that's a bear's macro argument. And yet the results are coming. So the bull keeps getting fresh ammunition. Goldman Sachs projects data center demand will grow 50% from 25 to 27. JP Morgan flatly says Michael Berry is dead wrong. And the results Meta's of fourth quarter, Q4 2025 sales hit 59.9 billion, up 24% year over year, beating expectations, and the stock rose 8% on the news despite the giant capex plans. That last part is telling. Earlier, the investor punished announcements of higher spending. Now they are rewarding the results. Sentiment is shifting, which sets up the only question. That's for you. Okay, your verdict. What is your verdict? If you are Elijah George, analyst, if you're the analyst, what do you tell your firm? Okay. Is it danger sign, or you just stay with your investment in heavy investment with Meta? Okay. So everything recovery collapses into one tension, single tension. On one side is economic reality. The chips really do last longer. The AI bet really is paying off. And longer book lives simply reflect the truth. On the other side, earnings management, so estimates are stretched to flatter profit while capex hits records, and the reckoning is merely delayed. Okay, so the genuinely unsettling part, exact same numbers support both stories. That's not a flaw in your analysis, the nature of accounting estimates. Your job is to find the one true number, and it's to weigh the evidence and the incentives and take a position. So, in order for us to train you as an expert in this matter, is how to judge. You have a discernment, and you'll be able to have capability to judge if the profit is real or not. So let me give you a practical checklist. Earnings quality lens you can carry into any company, not just Meta. 5 questions. Does cash track profit? Okay. If earnings rise but operating cash doesn't follow, ask why. Number 2, are estimates sensible? Do the useful lives match peers, match the physics of the hardware? Is the disclosure clear? Can you actually find the depreciation or is it busted? Any off-book structures are joint ventures or special vehicles hiding debt and risk. What is the incentive? Is management rewarded for looking good right now? Okay, if you run Meta or any company, whose stock prices are exploding through these 5 lenses and you have a sharper view, then the stock went up. The checklist is real skill that I want to walk you out with. So why a strategist should care. And don't fire this just for accountants. 3 reasons a strategist should care. Capital allocation. Is spending $130 billion a year a wisest use of Meta's cash? If that's the biggest strategic question the company faces. Number 2, competitive signaling. Front-loading capacity can be a deliberate move to scare rivals out of the race. Zuckerberg had basically said so. And trust and credible accounting lowers as company's cost of capital, while a credibility hit raises the borrowing costs. So headline is accounting choices are strategic choices. They shape capital, competition, and trust. So the decision. What is your decision if you're Elijah? Laid out honestly. The case to stay is record revenue up to 24%. AI returns already showing 6.7% lift. Old chips may genuinely last for lower models and inference models. And the sentiment turning and stocks are rising. Now, on the right, you see the case to exit. Estimates that look aggressive, off-balance sheet, risk in the blue hour deal, macro bubble signals, and obsolescence risk that could force write-downs. So there's no answer key here. Just be deliberate. So I will not be grading you on which side you pick. Just personal note. I am more of the exit. I am prone to exit. It looks like bubble exit. And my husband is more like to the left, that you need to stay. It's a trend that is not going to burst, or even it's a bubble. It's burst. The bubble will last because investors are also bubbly. That's, I think, his position. He's more of a long position. I'm more of a short position. And up until now, my husband has a better investment performance because I exit. I don't want to lose, so I exit. But he's willing to take more risks and stay longer. So I believe, I don't know, right up until now, he's more successful. What are your choices? Okay. So 5 things to remember. Number 1, profit is an estimate. It's a number on book that can be an opinion, or it can be a number that can be apply some cosmetics, if you say. Although it's not completely untrue, it is an opinion. Okay, cash is a fact. So always compare the two. Now, useful life is a lever. Small tweaks move billions in trillions earnings. Okay, non-cash change flatters profit, but not the bank balance. Where you can see off-balance sheet structure, blurred lines, you have to look harder, longer, find more, deeper. dig deeper. Accounting is judgment, and judgment is where the real story lives. Okay, so you're walking out, able to sit across the table with Michael Berry and hold your opinion. So I know a lot of you are not business majors, but I hope you have this basic understanding and be able to, not just have technology, but actually be able to make money and create profits because you have this strategy. You can also, manufacture what's called and maneuver what's called profit, which is an opinion and strategic judgment. But our Lord is not. Our Lord Jesus Christ is so heavy. His grace is so strong. So I think that what humans do are debatable, but Jesus is strong. When Moses was talking to Yahweh about the stiff-necked and the disobedience of his people, it's really hard to deal with the people. So God was almost giving up on the people. God says, I'm done with them. And Moses interceded. That's what's great about Moses. Moses also saw the weakness of his people, or the things that could really go wrong with these people, because they're continually doing the things God hates, abomination of the Lord. But Moses still took side and interceded for the people. I'm not sure I can do that, but Moses did. And when God threatened Moses that I cannot just go with you, my presence cannot go with you people. And Moses was very demanding, saying that if your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. And at one time, God even said, I'm going to judge all the people again. And Moses was interceding that if you do that again, everybody saw that you took them out of Egypt and just to kill in the wilderness, what's going to do that? Your name, your reputation, right? So Moses is very, as a leader for the people, no better than Moshe. Because he was going to always stand in your side and intercede for you. So then God was persuaded, and he said, and Moshe said, please show me your kavod. So when Moses asked, Lord, show me your kavod, he said, I'll tell you my name. I'll proclaim the name of the Lord. So name of the Lord is the most heaviest, the weightiest substance in the whole universe. And his name is Yeshua, Jesus Christ. So if you know Jesus, who doesn't change, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And Jesus Christ is gracious, and he's a compassionate Jesus. So God is very good at accounting, but he will forgive you. Okay? So that's the end of the lecture. Lift up your heads, O gates. Be lifted up, because the King of Kavod, glory, will come in. The King of Kavod will come in through these gates, and he will rule his kingdom. So thank you very much for your attention.